Ecclesiastes chapter 8. We will be getting into 9, but we need to look at a verse or two at the end of chapter 8, which is where we left off, because that leads us into chapter 9. Now, the soul of man craves for certainties. By that I mean in our soul, we want there to be certainties for our moralities. We want to know that if we do right, it will be all right. That's just a basic human desire. We want God to tell us, yes, son, yes, daughter, if you do right, everything will work out fine. Because we realize it takes effort to do the right thing. We understand it takes sacrifice to do the right thing. And if everyone else is going to live life up and have a party and do what they want to do despite the law of God, then certainly there must be some benefit for me to do that. It's just inherent to our nature to seek guarantees from God. If we do righteousness, we'll be blessed, right? That's what we want to ask God to tell us, yes. If we choose integrity, then it will work out, right? If we do the right things, then the right things will happen to us, right? That's basically how we approach life. We approach God that way. And even though we may know the Bible and we may say, well, it's not really that way, let's be honest, we still operate that way, because when your car breaks down, what is your instinctual thought process? God, why are you doing this to me? Like we don't deserve that. If we get sick, oh, God, I can't believe I'm the one getting sick here. We may not verbalize it, but internally, we challenge God when something bad happens to us, like, how dare you? I'm in church. The guy at work isn't, and he seems to be doing fine. It's just how we are, unfortunately, as human beings. This is why Job couldn't understand why all the bad things were happening to him. He was a man who eschewed evil. He was upright. He was perfect. He was a man who feared God, yet he lost everything at one point in his life. He certainly did right, but it wasn't all right. Think of Abel. Abel, the son of Adam and Eve. He had a brother named Cain, and Cain was the bad kid. Abel was the good kid. Abel did that which was right. He brought to the Lord offerings, and God accepted them. He did the right thing, but did it work out for Abel? I mean, he did right, but was it all right? Because he was murdered by his brother. We tend to say, well, don't worry, it'll eventually work out, Pastor. We were told this, that the end of the Lord is pitiful, and the end of Job, he was blessed just as much as his first. Yeah, but he still lost 10 kids. So it may work out. All things do work together for good. However, let's be honest, Abel didn't have a chance to see his kids. He was murdered. Joseph, he must have wrestled with the Lord. I would think in the prison that he was staying in, or in the captive land that he was in, there were times that he just said, Father, God Almighty, I didn't do anything wrong. Yet here I am, an alien. Here I am, a slave. Here I would become a prisoner. He did right. There wasn't a time in the Bible we see Joseph doing anything wrong. He did right, but it wasn't all right. David, I'm sure at times in David's life, in particular when he was in the wilderness, fleeing for his life. Again, this was a man who respected his father. This was a man who behaved himself wisely. This was a man who was good to his brothers. This was a man who was pure, a man who feared God, a man who wrote psalms, a man who worshiped God, a man who took care of his father's flock, a man who, by the way, killed Goliath. And he's the one on the run. God, why wouldn't you be punishing Saul for being jealous and envious and mean and cruel? Why am I on the run? Why is it not working out for me? I did right, but it's not all right. John the Baptist. You know Jesus said of John the Baptist that there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist? If you ask Jesus Christ, who's the greatest of all time? John the Baptist. He says nobody's been as good as John the Baptist. And he had Moses to choose from, Abraham to choose from. He had Elijah to choose from, Isaiah to choose from. He had all the Old Testament heroes. He even had the apostles probably to choose from. But he said John the Baptist, greatest of all people. How'd that work out for John the Baptist? His head was served on a platter. He did right, but it wasn't all right. And then there was James. We tend to overlook James. James was one of the top 3 tiered apostles. There was Peter, James, and John. James and John were brothers. They were the sons of Zebedee. Jesus coined the phrase sons of thunder for them. And those guys were good dudes. They were loyal to the Lord. They were faithful in the ministry. There wasn't any obvious flaw in James. I mean, he's not Peter. Peter was quick to shout out things he shouldn't have, quick to do things he shouldn't have. James typically played it safe, but played it well. I'm sure he was a holy man. He was a loyal man. You know it didn't work out good for him either, because Herod killed him. The end of his life was not sitting somewhere with the blessings of God. The end of his life was the sword. We have always struggled with this line of thinking. We always, at some point in our life, fall prey to the question, what guarantees do I have that all will be well if I do well? I don't believe any man or woman has escaped this mindset over the course of their lifetime. Certainly we have good points in our life where we don't allow that to creep in, but I think everyone has them. If anyone said that they didn't think that way, I think they'd be lying. Solomon was no exception. In fact, I think Solomon spent a great deal of time trying to find out why there are no guarantees for doing right. I think he spent a lot of time looking at society, looking at people, looking at God's people in particular, and trying to figure out, why doesn't the just man always have a great life? And why does the wicked man seem at times to have a better life than the wicked? In chapter 8, look at verse 14. He just completed a chapter of this book talking about this very topic. Verse 14, he writes, "There is a vanity which is done upon the earth, that there be just men, unto whom it happeneth according to the work of the wicked. Again, there be wicked men, to whom it happeneth according to the work of the righteous. I said that this also is vanity." This is emptiness. This doesn't satisfy me. I see wicked people that get the blessings of righteousness, and I see righteous people get the cursings of wicked people. I see what appears to be the opposite of what should happen. And he eventually said in verse 17, I can't figure it out. Look at verse 17. "Then I beheld all the work of God, that a man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun, because though a man labor to seek it out, yet he shall not find it. Yea, further, though a wise man think to know it, yet shall he not be able to find it." This was his conclusion at the end of chapter 8. He essentially concluded that no one can know what God will do or won't do. No one can conclude why God does what he does. And this conclusion of chapter 8 strips us of the guarantee that we so strongly desire from God. There are no guarantees. Your righteousness does not guarantee you anything. And we hate that. But Solomon accepted it. And that leads into chapter 9. Chapter 9, verse number 1, there will be 5 truths, 5 simple and basic truths in this chapter about life. In verse number 1, he writes, "For all this," everything we just talked about, "for all this I considered in my heart, even to declare all of this, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God." So he's still wrestling with, why do the righteous, why do the wise at times seem to not benefit from their righteousness and their wisdom? And Solomon says, I'm concluding this much, that God sees it, that God is aware of it, that God looks down from heaven and he sees everything the righteous do. He sees everything the wise do. He sees all the works of the righteous, the works of the wise. They're all in the hand of God. He is intimately aware of it. Anything that happens to them, good or bad, God is aware of it and God is allowing it. It's all in the hand of God. He hasn't forsaken the righteous nor the wise. Now look at the second part of verse 1. "No man knoweth either love or hatred by all that is before them." You say, what in the world does that mean? Well, I believe it means this, and I think the context proves it, but I think Solomon was saying here that you cannot determine if God loves you or hates you by all that happens to you. God says, the righteous, the wise, all their works, they're in the hand of God. No man can tell love or hatred. No man can tell God's love or God's hatred by all that happens, by all that is before them. God didn't hate Job when he allowed Satan to destroy his business. God didn't hate Job when he allowed Satan to destroy his health. God didn't hate Job when he allowed Satan to take his children. But if you looked at him from the outside like Job's friends did, you say something's wrong with you. God doesn't love you. God's trying to judge you. God's trying to get your attention. And that was a mistake of theirs, wasn't it? Because that wasn't the case. God was refining Job. He wasn't punishing Job. He didn't hate Job. In fact, he loved Job. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth. God didn't hate Abel when he allowed Cain to kill him. God didn't hate Joseph when he allowed his brothers to sell him into slavery. God didn't hate Joseph when he allowed Potiphar to throw him into prison. God didn't hate David when he allowed his boss to persecute him. God didn't hate John the Baptist when he allowed Herod to behead him. God didn't hate James when he allowed Herod to kill him. No man knoweth either God's love or hatred by all that is before him. Solomon is starting this chapter on the back end of the last chapter saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. We don't understand God. God is mysterious. But we're going to excuse God from any injustice because God is God. If he were to have injustice in him, then he wouldn't be God. Verse number 2. All things come alike to all. There is one event to the righteous and to the wicked, to the good and to the clean, and to the unclean, to him that sacrificeth and to him that sacrificeth not. As is the good, so is the sinner. And he that sweareth, as he that feareth an oath. I hope you don't assume Solomon is concluding that righteousness and morality means nothing. I don't think it would be wise to say, oh, look at, as is the sinner, so is the righteous. It doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter what we do. That's not at all what he's saying. It's within the context of all things come alike to all. There is one event to the righteous and to the wicked. You can't escape it. Say, what is that one event? Well, whatever that one event is, morality plays no part in it. It is a universal event in the lives of all people, right or wrong, good or bad, righteous or wicked, wise or foolish. There's one event that happens to all of us, and it is death. Verse number 3, this is an evil among all things that are done under the sun, that there is one event unto all. Yea, also the heart of the sons of men is full of evil, and madness is in their heart while they live, and after that they go to the dead. Truth number 1 in chapter 9 of Ecclesiastes, not going to surprise you, but life is short. Life is short. Solomon is not declaring a lack of difference between the good and bad. He is not removing the importance of choosing righteousness over wickedness. He is simply telling us morality has no bearing on death. Now, if you live a wicked lifestyle, your chances are much higher that you will find death sooner. But that being said, your morality doesn't determine your death. All men will die because all men, as he just said, have evil within them. Sin reigns in this world, and so death reigns upon all of us. And all of us, good or bad, wise or foolish, will eventually and ultimately go to the dead. He had spent decades watching people and studying, looking out the window of his palace and interviewing people, looking into lives, and he just said, I can't figure out why people die. I don't know why that guy died when he did. I don't know why that guy died the way he did. I can't figure out the role God plays in the circumstances of death. I only can tell you this much. Everyone dies. Righteous or wicked. Everyone dies. The things that happen to the righteous are still in the hand of God. He is aware of those things. Sickness, illness, tragedy, accident, and death ultimately, they are no indicators that God doesn't love the righteous. But I can also say this, nor are they indicators that God hates the wicked. In other words, be careful to look at the events or the end of someone's life and use those events or circumstances to determine God's relationship to them. The reality is we all are sinners, just different phases, levels. and for that we will all die. So Solomon is suggesting, rather than focus on the role God plays in life and death, he urges us to focus on the reality of life and death. Regardless of why someone died, understand that death was inevitable for them. Regardless of how someone died, understand that death was inevitable for them. Regardless of when someone died, understand that death was inevitable for them. You may say, well, based on the circumstances, it was clear that God didn't love them. Maybe, maybe not. Or you might look at other circumstances and say it was clear that God did love them. Maybe, maybe not. But last I checked, no one likes death. And last I checked, no one approves of death. And so we all struggle with it. So be careful to conclude God's relationship to someone based on the circumstances of their death. The reality of life is you and I will all die. The grave awaits us. We cannot escape death by purity. We cannot escape death by wisdom. We cannot sacrifice our way out of it. We cannot reason our way out of it. Death is unavoidable, inescapable, and inevitable. And God should not be blamed for the unavoidable, the inescapable, and the inevitable. Life is short. That is the anchor of this passage. Everything we're about to discuss hinges on that simple and basic truth. Look at verse number 4, and we'll see, secondly, that life is hope. You may not like the unavoidable and inescapable fact that life is short, but don't let that paralyze you. Don't let it cripple you. Life is short, but life is hope. Verse 4, for to him that is joined to all the living. The person who is still joined to the living population, the person who is still living, they haven't gone to the dead. For to him that is joined to the living, there is hope, for a living dog is better than a dead lion. Now, this is where all the Solomon haters come out of the woodworks. And they say, obviously, we know that a lion is better than a dog, and so Solomon is just depressed, and he's twisted in his mindset. Look, he's now saying a living dog is better than a dead lion. Why bother with a dead lion when you have a living dog? And let's be honest, to me it couldn't be more obvious that a living dog is better than a dead lion. Let me ask you this question in terms of our life and terminology now. What's better, a broken riding lawnmower or a working push mower? Right? The broken lawnmower is not better than the working one. Yeah, you'd rather have something working, even though it may not be as strong or effective, than something that's not working because it's useless. Why is a living dog better than a dead lion? Because the dead lion's dead. He's useless. There's no point for him. There's nothing there. Guys, what would you rather have? And I suppose I should be careful with asking this question, but would you rather have a broken 2019 F-350 Super Duty truck or a working 1989 Ford Ranger pickup truck? Now, I know you guys, well, I'll fix the 2019 and what? No. What would you rather have? A truck that works, even though it may be old and small, or a truck that's broken? Right? You want the one that works. And Solomon's not in any way demented. He says a dead lion's no use to me, so I'll take a living dog, actually. A living dog's going to be better than a dead lion. Verse 5, for the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. Neither have they any more a reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Also, their love and their hatred and their envy, it's now perished. Neither have they any more a portion forever in anything that is done under the sun. I have to remind you, Solomon is not writing from the perspective of eternity. He's not writing from the perspective of the afterlife. He's not writing from the perspective of above the sun. He's writing about everything under the sun. He's writing from the perspective of life. He's writing about life as we know it. Therefore, if you're looking at life, a living dog is better than a dead lion. See, we look at it from the perspective of a Christian, and we get off so easy by saying, well, I can't wait to die, the next life will be better. Or what's the worst that's going to happen to us? We're going to die, and then we get to go to heaven. That's an easy cop-out. The reality is we only know this world. And Solomon says, I want to help you out with this world. Life is short. And while you're living, you still have knowledge. Yeah, but I know I'm going to die. Yeah, but if you're dead, you don't know anything. While you're living, you have the ability to love. You have the ability to hate. You have the ability to envy. In other words, you have emotions. You have knowledge. You can earn a reward. And if you're living, you have hope. Life may be short, but life is hope. Hope that we can continue to know the things we know in this world. Hope that we can continue to earn wages and earn compliments and earn rewards. Hope that we can continue to put smiles on more faces and cheer in more hearts. Hope that we can continue to make memories and enjoy memories. Hope that we can continue to feel emotion and express emotion. Hope that we can continue to be a part of life, a part of our families, a part of our country, a part of our church, a part of our place of employment, a part of friendships. Every moment you're living with hope. We don't see it this way because we look at hope as something that we have to grasp to keep going. But right now, you don't even know it, but because you're living, you're hoping for all kinds of things. Some of you are hoping that I finish sooner tonight than usual. Some of you are hoping that the pizza you're going to have after church is delicious. You're hoping the time with your loved one tonight watching your favorite show is going to be enjoyable. You're hoping that tomorrow it will be a great start to the work week. You're hoping that your father's cancer treatment will work. You're hoping that your father's uncertainties will be answered tomorrow. You're hoping that your husband will get home soon to help you with your kids. You're hoping your son can beat addiction finally and forever. You're hoping that your marriage will work. You may have bad things happening in your life that bring you down, but you don't even know it. If you're alive, you have hope. That's why you get up. See, think about the people who take their own lives. They have no hope. There's nothing there to live for. There's nothing to look forward to. There's nothing to hope for. That's why Solomon said in Proverbs, hope deferred, hope refrained, hope deferred maketh the heart sick. But when the desire cometh, this desire for something, hope of something, when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life. Life is what keeps us going. Now, I realize people get hopeless, but they're never truly without hope. Because even the person tonight who's sitting there and saying, Pastor, I have nothing to hope for. Everything's gone wrong in my life. Let me be blunt. If you truly had no hope, you wouldn't still keep breathing. You may not have a lot of hope, but you're hoping that tomorrow will be different. You're hoping that that medication will work. You're hoping that your husband will finally get his act together and get into counseling. You're hoping that something will click. We don't know it. We get up in the morning because we hope it will be a good day. Hope is what we live by. Life is short, but life is hope. Verse number 7. Go thy way. In light of the truth that life is short, go thy way. Don't sit there and try to figure everything out. Don't sit there and try to do what Solomon did and get to the bottom of why God doesn't give us any guarantees for our morality. Don't sit there paralyzed by the unavoidable and inescapable reality that life is short. Go thy way. Eat thy bread with joy, or as I told Pastor Phil this morning, eat thy ziti with joy, and drink thy wine with a merry heart, for God now accepteth thy works. This is one of the best verses in the Bible, one of the best chapters in the Bible. Life is short, yes. Life is hope, hallelujah. Number 3, life is opportunity. Life is opportunity. While you're living, you get the opportunity to earn rewards. Right now, God is accepting our works. While we're living and only while we're living, God is open to recording our actions and accepting our service. Right now, while we're living and only while we're living, we have the opportunity to bring God pleasure. Because once we die, once we take our final breath, the books are closed And all the works that we did from birth to death, they will be recorded. All the decisions we made from birth to death will be recorded. And that is what God uses to judge us. That is what God uses to define our eternity. You cannot get saved after you die. You cannot reconcile after you die. Right now, because we're living, we have the opportunity to get God's acceptance. I read this verse like the ice cream man. Now, there's not a lot of it anymore, especially for those of you who live out in the country. You just go to the cow and get the milk, put it in the freezer. But where we live in suburban America, there's this cool thing called the ice cream man. And he goes around. I know it's a little creepy in today's day and age, but the ice cream man still exists. It's kind of reviving. And you hear the sound, the corny little, doo-doo-doo-doo. And the kids hear it, and they get all excited. And the ice cream man is here. Now listen, they get excited, but is the ice cream man giving out ice cream? Why do they get so excited? So what if the ice cream man is here? What's it to you? He has ice cream. So what? Oh, you need money for the ice cream man. Oh, okay. But kids get excited because there is the opportunity to get ice cream. You know what life is? It's the sound of the ice cream truck. God's not handing out rewards to everybody and anybody, but it's the opportunity. Because once that ice cream man leaves the neighborhood and you hear the music from his truck or van go off in the distance and finally expire, you know what you've lost? You've lost the opportunity for ice cream. That's what death is. When death knocks on your door and takes your final breath from you, you've lost your opportunity to please God. You've lost your opportunity to make Him happy. For that reason, stop trying to figure God out and just eat your bread with joy, drink your wine with a merry heart, and enjoy the life God has given you. Verse 8, let thy garments be always white, and thy head lack no ointment. What does that mean? Back then, when they went to festivities, they put on white garments. They anointed themselves with perfumes and colognes. They didn't use it all the time. It was expensive, so they waited for the big parties, the celebrations, the weddings, the birthday parties, and they put on their white garments, and they put on their ointments. And so Solomon's saying, hey, right now you're alive, and God gets to listen to you and watch you and accept your work. So eat your bread with joy, drink your wine with a merry heart, put on the white garments, put on the cologne. Verse 9, live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of the life of thy vanity, which He hath given thee under the sun, all the days of thy vanity, for that is thy portion in this life, and in thy labor which thou takest under the sun. I love that verse 9. Live joyfully with the wife whom thou, what does it say there? Lovest, right? We'll look back up in the passage. What verse was it here? Let's see. Verse number 6. What does it say? Verse number 6. Also their love and their hatred and their envy is now perished. You have the opportunity to love somebody right now. That may be gone tomorrow. Well, wait a minute, Pastor. When we get to heaven, does that mean we don't have emotion? Of course we do. Of course we do. But the love you experience there will be easy peasy, universally, and automatic. Right now, you get to choose to love somebody special. The person you may be married to, the person you may have a family relationship with, you can love them right now in a way that matters and in a way that's special, in a way that makes life manageable and enjoyable. Life is short. You get the opportunity to love a woman for as long as you're living. You get the opportunity to love a man for as long as you're living. You get the opportunity to laugh with someone as long as you're living. You get the opportunity to experience emotion with people for as long as you're living. You get one shot at life, and it's a short shot. You get one shot at relationships, and it's a short shot. What's Solomon saying? Man, wake up and smell the roses, people. That's what he's saying. He's saying, stop wasting the years of your life trying to figure out God and figure out why the righteous sometimes don't have everything work out and why the wicked sometimes do, and you want to figure out God, the whole time you're wasting time not choosing to invest in someone fervently and passionately. Love that woman. Live joyfully with her. Love her and appreciate her. Ladies, live joyfully with your husbands. Love them and appreciate them. Moms and dads, live joyfully with your kids. Appreciate them and enjoy them. Man, husbands and wives, listen, this is mind-shattering, deep doctrine. Ready? You can't get yesterday back. That stinks. You can't get the past 10 years back. So make today count, because tomorrow, boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. Whatever days you get, realize it's an opportunity to love someone, to experience a beautiful emotion. Don't throw away the gift of life, and don't throw away the opportunity to love and to be loved. You know why you should eat your bread with joy? You know why you should drink your wine with a merry heart? Because you get to do it with somebody. You know why you should put on white raiment and cologne on? Because you get to be close to somebody. Man, Solomon's great. Verse 10. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might, for there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. Did you hear that, guys? There aren't any trucks to fix in heaven. He's not even talking about heaven. He's just about the grave. He's looking at it from a under the sun standpoint. Once you die, you can no longer do that job you love to do. You can't build houses anymore. You can't help customers anymore. You can't fix your house up anymore. You can't decorate the walls anymore. You can't make a meal for anybody anymore. You can't go put up the power lines and give energy to somebody. You can't design a house for anyone. You can't farm that field anymore. You can't build that gift for your wife or your children. There's no work. There's no wisdom. There's no device. There's no skill where you go. You get one shot at life. And whatever you do, if you work, work hard. If you travel, travel well. If you're married, do it good. If you have kids, make it count. Whatever you do it with your might. Do it your best, because there are no redos in the grave. Whatever you do it without regrets. It's now or never. Solomon in this passage highlights all the things we take for granted. As I was reading verses 7 through 10, I noticed there are a lot of things, if you look at them, that we take for granted. He says in verse 7, go thy way. Just the idea that we have somewhere to go and something to do, that's a blessing. Eat thy bread. We have food. Eat thy wine. We have drink. God accepteth thy works. We have the ability to work. Verse 8, thy garments. We've got clothes. Thy head. We've got something on our shoulders. Verse 9, you can put in there thy wife, thy spouse, thy husband. Verse 9, thy portion, thy labor. Oh, there's so much God gives us. God gives us things to enjoy. God gives us the tools to enjoy the life that is short, and He gives us the tools to bring Him pleasure in the life that is short. This is Solomon's version here in verse 10 of Colossians 3:23 through 24. When we are told by Paul the Apostle, and whatsoever ye do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and not unto men, knowing that of the Lord ye shall receive the reward of the inheritance. Why love your wife? Live joyful with her. Why eat thy bread with joy? Why drink your wine with a merry heart? Why do everything with all your might? Because right now, and only right now, God accepts our work. It's great. So at work or at home, in the classroom or in the living room, in a conversation or in a celebration, in singlehood or in marriage, give it your best. And give it your best for Christ. Why? For God now accepteth thy works. Verse number 11, we see life is uncontrollable. In case his readers forgot that life is short, he's going to remind them, but he'll do so with an additional thought. Ecclesiastes 9:11. I love that. It helps you remember what the verse means. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. For man also knoweth not his time. As the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in the snare, so are the sons of men snared in an evil time when it falleth suddenly upon them. Now, this may not encourage you, but this is a reality of life Solomon wants us to get. Death is inevitable, yes, but it's also uncontrollable. Death is inevitable, but it is also unmanageable. So as important as it is to be healthy, exercise will not dictate death. As important as it is to eat healthy, nutrition doesn't govern death. As important as it is to drive safe, prudence doesn't control death. Death comes for us all, and it comes when it wants, where it wants, and however it wants. Not encouraging, I understand that. But if we are to enjoy the brevity of life and get the fullest out of life, we have to recognize that, because otherwise we'll be guilty of saying, well, I'm going to eat well, I'm going to exercise well, I'm going to drive safe, I'm going to do everything right, and I've got plenty of time left. It's a mistaken philosophy. The race is not to the swift. You know, the fastest runner doesn't always win the race, because the fastest runner can't control the weather. The fastest runner can't control the track conditions. The fastest runner can't guarantee he won't sprain his ankle or have the stomach flu the night before the race. Can't control everything. The greatest armies don't win all the battles. The smartest people don't get all the bread. There are things in life that are beyond our control. I love basketball. I like college basketball. Perhaps some of you have paid attention this year to Zion Williamson. He's a phenomenal player in Duke, and I don't like Duke, but we still watched him. So earlier in the season, there was the game. Anybody watch the North Carolina-Duke game? A few of you are smart. All right, the rest of you are boring and have nothing to live for. So North Carolina, Duke, very quickly, they're rivals. Everyone in the country, evidently besides you, watches the game. It was $3,000 to get a ticket because they wanted to see Zion Williamson. And so we sit down, my whole family's ready to go. Brian says, I can't wait to see Zion. No lie. I think it was within 2 minutes. Zion got the ball, he pivoted his foot and went down. His sneaker blew out and he hurt his knee. And all the people that were ready to watch were like, oh, we can't watch Zion now. Yeah, because his shoe, his expensive Nike shoe, blew out. When does that happen? He couldn't have stopped that if he wanted to. Why? Even the best, the strongest, the fastest, the quickest, time and chance happeneth to them all. Man knoweth not his time. Sadly and tragically, we hate it, but the young die before the old often. The healthy die before the sick often. Cancer doesn't care who we are. Disease doesn't have any respect for our age, and illness doesn't have any respect for our lifestyle. Car accidents cannot be controlled by gym memberships or by nutritionists. Life is short, and life is uncontrollable. Pastor, that's not really what I wanted to hear. I get it. This isn't Solomon, though, telling you how bad life is. He is a Holy Spirit-inspired writer who is, by the direction of God, telling us, don't take anything for granted. You may have everything figured out, but you cannot control life. Time and chance happeneth to them all. Context, verse number 1, the wise, the righteous as well. You mean I'm not exempt from life being unpredictably uncontrollable? No, you're not. No, you're not. Life is short. Life is uncontrollable, but life is hope. While you're still living, you may have another hour in this world. While you're still living, you have the opportunity to please God, to make it work, to make it count, to put a smile on your wife's face, to make your husband happy, to make your children joyful. All these great opportunities we have. Verse number 13, very quickly, and we'll be done. This last one, I would say this. Life is predictable. Whoa, Pastor, you just said time and chance happeneth to us all. We can't predict what happens to us. I don't mean by events what will happen to us. Let's read verses 13 through 18 and hopefully make some very quick sense of it. Verse 13, This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. There was a little city, and few men within it, and there came a great king against it, and besieged it, and built great bulwarks against it. Now, verse 15, there was found in it a poor wise man. I'm going to stop real quick and ask, do you notice anything strange about that? I mean, aren't wise people supposed to be rich? I mean, doesn't wisdom make us better, wealthier, healthier, happier, make life easy peasy? Time and chance happeneth to us all. Solomon said the race is not to the swift. Bread is not always to the wise. I don't know why this man was poor, but the wise and all their works are in the hand of God. God's aware of it. Now, this might be just a period of his life where he's poor, that God's going to bless him. This may be how he dies. We don't know, but the reality is, as we see right here, there are no guarantees for your moralities. Verse number 15 again. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city, yet no man remembered that same poor man. Then said I, wisdom is better than strength. If a poor wise man can defeat a strong king, then wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, he said, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. The words of wise men are heard in quiet more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools. A wise man's quiet. He tends to be in the corner. He's not boisterous and loud. A fool is heard more than a wise man. But he finishes with one statement, verse 18, a strange statement in light of everything he just discussed. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroyeth much good. It's a strange way to finish this chapter. Proverbs and Ecclesiastes are very different, even though they have the same author. Proverbs is a collection of thoughts, not necessarily and often not connected to each other. Ecclesiastes, however, is a continuing line of reasoning. And so what he says in verse 18 is attached to verse 13, which is attached to all the verses preceding it. You say, what's so predictable about life? Listen very carefully so you understand what life is and what it isn't. What's so predictable about life? Wisdom is not always accepted. Wisdom is not always honored. Wisdom is not always the path to righteous or to riches. Wisdom is not always the path to honor. And a wise man can do great things that the world will never celebrate. Wisdom can do great things, and a wise man can accomplish much good. But one fool, one sinner, can destroy all of that. And if you're not careful, you go through life expecting your good decisions, your morality, your righteousness to always result in blessings for you. And Solomon is saying, hey, there are no guarantees in life. But wisdom is always better. Not because the results will make you a better lifestyle or give you better circumstances, but it's always better. You can never go wrong with it, but life is predictable. There are no guarantees that wisdom will result in long life. There are no guarantees that wisdom will bring a perfect marriage or a perfect family. I just think of this real quick thought, and we'll get you out of here. I don't want to elaborate too much on it, but perhaps the greatest illustration of this predictable fact of life is you can approach parenthood, moms and dads, with all the wisdom in the world, and you can give your sons and daughters all of the tools to succeed in life. And you can give them a great start at life and nurture them for years and years and do everything right. But one sinner can destroy all of that good. And if you're not careful, you will blame God for that one sinner. Why does God allow what He allows? I don't know. But I know the works of the righteous, the works of the wise are in His hand. He sees them. You know what life is? It's short. But while you're living, have hope. And while you're living, use the opportunities you have to please God. Because right now He accepts your works. Life is uncontrollable. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what your kids will do. You don't know what people will do. People could do bad things to you. But understand that life is predictably difficult, without guarantees, and this world is evil. That's what He says. He says, listen, you know what's predictable? We're bad. People are bad. Bad things happen because people are bad and do bad things. None of which is God's fault. So while you're living, because that event's coming, while you're living, eat your bread with joy, for crying out loud. Drink your wine with a merry heart. Put on white. Put cologne on your head and enjoy what you've got. And do it all righteously. Do it all purely. That's what Solomon's trying to say. So whatever it is your lot in life is, whatever and whomever God has blessed you with, live joyfully. Whatever abilities you have, they may not be what they used to be. They may not be what you want them to be. They may not be what your neighbor has. But whatever abilities you have, use them with all your might. Because you only get one shot at using them. And tomorrow, it may be your last. So tonight, raise your cups and thank God for whatever you have right now. That's the beauty and wisdom of Ecclesiastes chapter 9. Let's stand and have a word of prayer.